My joining Richmond Lodge was due to Ron Cameron, because when I was looking for a lodge when I came to Melbourne that time, I went on the website and I got Ron's telephone number, and he drove up all the way from the area he stayed in, and we met at Matt's house the evening. So this Ron is due to that Ron. Basically, I was born in South Africa. I'm the 10th generation of a French Huguenot that came to South Africa in 1867. And our family history is taken up in 3 volumes of the Pienaar Register recorded by the French Huguenots. So I eventually, I was tracking down my genealogy, and then after many years, then I found that they'd actually published this the series on the Pienaar family, and then got hold of it. It was published. This is the latest published. It was in 2016, and I'm the 10th generation direct descendant of French of Jacques Pienaar, who came from France. My father was a policeman, so he retired after 32 years of service as a colonel. So we moved often, because every time we got promotion, we would move to a different city in South Africa. So I had a good tour of the country. I was then conscripted to the police, and then ended up as a sky marshal with South African Airways, and got to see the world for a couple of years. And then after that, I was transferred to military intelligence, where I served a stint as a cryptographer. That stint was almost broken short by the famous Pretoria bomb in 1983, which killed 19 people. And I was one of the people in the very near facility. I was six car lengths away from the bomb when it went off, but I was fortunately just at the right position not to get injured. I studied psychology through the police. At that stage, you could study while you were in the police force, and they paid for it. So I studied and qualified as a psychologist. Left left the police eventually, went into business. Met my wife in Cape Town in 1990. We got married in 92. Have a daughter. We moved to London, and then we went back to South Africa, and then we moved to Australia down in 2009. First started out in Mackay, then moved down to Sydney, and then eventually down to Melbourne. So I'm registered as a psychotherapist and hypnotherapist in Australia, but most of my time I spend doing project finance and project management in Australia and the US. Currently, it's very quiet because of COVID, so I'm enjoying a lot of time at home, which I normally don't enjoy or don't have the privilege of doing. My daughter works as a scientist. She works for us pathology labs. And my wife is an accountant. My introduction to the craft came back in 2005 when I was working with an aviation company, and I met a guy by the name of Trevor Merton, and we got to talking about all different things. And I liked his style, and I liked what he was what he meant, and his values. And it came to being that he was a member of the craft. And Trevor actually introduced me. He was master up in Mittagong, just north of Sydney, for a while. And his dad also, his father passed away probably about 3 years ago. He was very well known in Melbourne, and I think he was a 30 or 32nd degree. He was Howard Merton. Anyway. Then when I started digging in the family, because none of my immediate relatives are Masons, then my wife's grandfather was a Mason, and I actually inherited his regalia suitcase. The little suitcase I carry my stuff around in is actually my wife's grandfather's. And then also my mother's uncle was back in the 70s. I once saw a photo of him in the Grand Lodge regalia, and he was in South Africa. So he was something, but nobody in those years, you never spoke about. This is very secretive. And the fact that he had a photo was something that you seldom saw. But so I tracked that. I had some lodge in the family somewhere, but never spoken of, never mentioned. From a hobby point of view, basically, when I'm not working, my wife basically workaholics, I suppose, but we love scuba diving and we like music. So we make music seldom now at the moment, but when we also get a chance, we get into the water.
Excellent, Ron. Thank you very much for that. God, it's quite a varied and interesting career. Now that you've volunteered your music abilities, I think we could possibly have you on one of our calls with a good old South African tune, I would assume. Is that right?
Whatever, yeah.
No, certainly that was brilliant, Ron. Your daughter, is she in Australia as well now?
Yes, my daughter is up in Brisbane. She moved with us in 2009. She finished school. Yeah, she was then in grade 11. So she finished school. Then she did a double degree in chemistry and biochemistry, and then she did a master's in forensics.
Okay, and she
moved up. She moved to Brisbane last year.
Okay, and your introduction to Freemasonry was basically in Australia.
Yes. Well, through Trevor, because I mean, Trevor got me interested in this lot back in 2005 in South Africa. And when I moved here, then he said, "Well, you know, we've got to start talking." And I spent quite a few hours. I used to go visit him quite frequently, and just spend weekends with him. And then through him and his dad, got me interested in the craft, and so that's how I joined.